I'm standing up here now and suddenly wishing I hadn't had dessert. Thank you so much, Joe and Christina, for making the night so, awesome so far. I'm Louise. If you already know, you might know me as the Pearl Girl. Probably tried to sell you some necklaces on the way in. Have you ever seen someone do something and thought, I could do that? I know I have. I've been working with JDRF a long time. Most of my life, in fact. And I've seen a lot of Fundacare speeches. So many that when my friends at JDRF asked me to be the speaker here tonight, I said yes without a second's hesitation. Figured it'd be a piece of cake. As it turns out, it wasn't a piece of cake. Not even close. Preparing the speech was one of the hardest things I've had to do in a really long time. And I don't have words for how much it means to me that you're all here tonight to hear it. There is literally no place in the entire world I'd rather be than right here where I'm standing. But my life with type 1 diabetes started a long time ago, long before I can remember. I was 14 months old, so a year and 2 months, and I have never known a life without this disease. I don't remember a day in my life that it hasn't been there haunting me. I'm sorry to tell you that I have no horror stories of diagnosis for you. No tales of panicked families or horrible trips to the ER and how life changed in an instant. Because my life didn't change in any distinct moment. It's just literally always been this way. Living with T1D isn't just hard. It is a constant, never-ending battle between you and your body that you can never win. It's a race you're forced to run every minute of every day with no breaks and no sign of a finish line. I've been running this race for a long time, and I've grown up telling people what they like to hear. Diabetes doesn't make me who I am. There is a seed of truth to this statement. Diabetes doesn't necessarily define who you are. As with anyone else, you wake up in the morning and you live your life as the person you choose to be. But I can tell you, in complete honesty, that there isn't a single aspect of my life that hasn't been touched by this disease. My family, my friends, even my grades. I mean, I missed an English final last year due to my low blood sugar. And perhaps most importantly, it's changed the way that I view myself. Like I said, I was diagnosed when I was very young, so I never quite grasped the reality of being a diabetic. I knew I had to check my blood sugar. I knew that if it started with a 1, it was good. If it started with a 2 or a 3, I needed a shot. And if it started with if it had 2 digits, then I was in trouble. But that was just how things were. I didn't really think anything of it. When I got a little older, I realized that this wasn't something everyone had. I had chosen to go on an insulin pump, a device that looks incredibly similar to a pager, but delivers a yeah, that's for everyone who's ever been asked, what's that cell phone on your waistband? No. It makes living with T1D a little easier. And I was extremely lucky. I am extremely lucky. This device was available to me because of the funding JDRF provides for development in better treatments for type 1 diabetes. And looking back now, I realized that while I was lucky, well, life was still a struggle every day. But back then, of course, none of my classmates got to call their mom every day to count carbohydrates. None of my classmates got to, got a cool purple insulin pump to wear on the waistband of their flowery pink leggings. None of the girls on my soccer team got to run around the field with that insulin pump bouncing. It made me feel cool. I felt like I was special. That didn't last as long as I would have liked it to. As the years went by, I started to realize that special wasn't really the right word for it. People would call me things when I checked my blood sugar in class. They'd call it gross, or the girls would scream and hide their faces from the blood. The guys would all group around and ask me questions about it, and instead of making me feel special like it used to, I felt like a science fair project. I felt like a freak show. The final straw for me came last year, in my freshman year of high school. I knew it was going to be hard, but I wasn't quite prepared for how hard it was. About the middle of the year, everything started to collapse around me. My grades were slipping. It seemed like all my friends were turning against me. I was constantly fighting with my family, and more often than not, I locked myself in my room for hours. I remember sitting in my math class and biting my lips so hard that I bled because I needed to keep myself from crying. I didn't even have a particular reason for crying. I just, except for that my blood sugar was over 400. And I knew that if I stayed in that classroom for another moment, I was going to shatter in front of everyone. I called my mom that day and I convinced her to pick me up. And that wasn't the only time it happened either. This entire time, I was blaming myself. I felt like a massive failure. And whether I liked it or not, my mind always went back to diabetes. My life with it had evolved. It went from being nothing, to being something, to making me special, to making me different, to making me broken. I'd lie awake at 3 in the morning, unable to sleep because of the nightmares I'd know I'd have, and I'd ask myself the million-dollar question. Why me? Why do I have to be the one with this stupid disease? Why do I have to be the broken one? My story isn't as uncommon as you might think. 1 in 4 teens with type 1 diabetes suffer from depression, and mine just kept getting worse. It kept slipping further and further out of my control, and my health showed it. My A1C levels were through the roof, reaching 12 at one point. I was lying constantly about my blood sugar numbers. I'd wake up every morning, sore inside and out, wanting nothing more than to pull the covers up over my head and hide from the world. At my lowest point, I sincerely didn't want to be alive. I rewrote this part of my speech several times, due to the fact that every time I wrote it, it didn't sound quite right. I could say that thanks to my doctors, my medication, my family, and my friends. I'm recovering. More than I ever thought I could. I could say that every day is still a struggle for me. Checking my blood sugar, giving myself insulin, going to doctor appointments, and living my life as a teen with type 1 diabetes. I could say that I still have days where I want to pull my covers up over my head and hide, but I also have days that I forget I'm fighting depression completely. I feel like all of these things are really important things to tell you, but in all honesty, there's one thing I want to say more than anything. Life with type 1 diabetes is preposterously hard. It's unfair, and it's unforgiving, and it's really, really hard. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. If I learned anything from all of this, it's that we're capable of living with struggle, and we're capable of overcoming it. I know now more than ever that type 1 diabetes has made me a fighter. It's made me a survivor. Every diabetic here tonight, every diabetic you've ever met, they're fighters too. Every single one of us is a fighter, inside and out, and we're going to keep fighting until we get the future we're fighting for. That day where we can throw our shoulders back, hold our chins high in the air and say, I had type 1 diabetes. Yeah. I spent a lot of time thinking about what was so special about Fund to Cure. Fund to Cure, just like this entire event, is such a crucial part of our fight for a cure. But what makes it so special to me, and I'm sure lots of other people, is that we're asking you to give with no expectations of anything in return. You know, you've already given so much just by being here. And every dime you've given gives us one step closer to our future. And I've never been really great about asking for help. Ever in my entire life. I've struggled with asking for help, but I've gotten to the point where I can stand up here and I can ask you for your help. I'm begging for your help because you could be the difference between type 1 and type none. Thank you.